Welcome to the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Welcome to ITSP Magazine Podcast Radio. You're about to listen to a new episode of Audio Signals. Get ready to take a journey into the known, the unknown, and everything in between. Recorded at no specific point in time nor space, ITSP Magazine's co-founders Marco Ciappelli and Sean Martin follow their passion and curiosity as they venture away from the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society to discover new stories worth being told. Knowledge is power, now more than ever.
Well, I feel like, Sean, we already started recording a while back, but we didn't actually push the button, but we could have captured some piece of that conversation. And let's get it started properly. This is Marco Ciappelli, Audio Signals. This is the podcast we are on today, which means we don't need to talk technology and society, but I have a feeling we will touch on that because I can't escape this curse of talking about technology and society, no matter what it is. But I think this is going to be a great conversation. We're here with Sean Turi today. He's a photographer, but he was something else before that. And it sounds to me that he has a very interesting story to share and a lot of passion. And I feel like from the little that we talked before we start recording, some of those are very similar. We both love technology, creative art, and we realize that we can't live without it, but we can probably live better with it if we do it in the right way. So enough about me. Sean, introduce yourself, please, to our audience, and then we just have a nice conversation about whatever it is.
Sure. So I'm Sean Turi, as Marco mentioned, and I'm a photographer that by trade. I have a studio in New York City. And more recently, I've expanded and started my a YouTube channel and podcast with individuals that I've worked with, just based on some of the truly fascinating individuals I've been able to learn from and work with in the studio, and also just start diving into some really interesting questions that when I'm not working, I'm normally down the rabbit hole searching. So now I'm sort of combining my area of expertise with some of these questions, utilizing some of the latest technology now more than ever, and we'll see where it takes me.
Well, I think one of the quote that I use the most in my life, it's the only constant is change. So we need to stay open-minded and follow your passion. I mean, I'm doing the same thing. You asked me years ago if I was going to start doing a podcast, I probably said, I don't know, probably not. But then, it happened. I'm loving it. And I'm taking advantage of technology, and I talk about technology quite a bit. One thing that I was curious, and maybe we can start there. How did you go from being a photographer to having a YouTube video that, from what I've seen, you actually talk about UFO quite a bit, and you kind of figure out if technology it's cheating us or if it actually is something that it could be a real image, and you use, as you said, the latest technology to figure out what technology is doing. So how is that a passion that you had since when you were a kid, and you finally got to the point to cultivate it more?
I would say anything space related has always been something I'm interested in. And actually, before I even knew I wanted to be a photographer, I was taking pictures of stars and planets with a point and shoot camera. And this was before I had any photographer. And then I got into photography, but my business is more portrait and it's people. Like, if you want to ask what I specialize in working with people. So mostly portrait work. And then as I've had my career now for 15 years, I'm starting to circle back and utilize some of my skill set as a photographer and applying it to some of these things that I'm interested in. One of those are UFOs or UAPs. if you don't find these, like now more than ever, really interesting or thought-provoking, I don't know what will. And so I'm now sort of analyzing some of the footage and photos that we see online, and applying some of my skill set and reviewing and analyzing the images. And there's a bunch of different ways you can do this. And now there's even some AI tools that I was using in conjunction with reviewing these images. But it's very difficult, and it's becoming increasingly difficult, or I would say almost impossible, to have a hard stamp on it and say this is real unless you have the original raw file or negative. It's very difficult, but there's a lot of sloppy editing that you can catch if you have the right eye.
Yeah.
And there's and obviously a lot of fakes.
Right. So now I'm going to bite my tongue, because I could make these all about fake and AI and ChatGPT and how to use technology to find out what technology is doing, and almost like the only cure for more technology is more technology, but we don't know about that. But I'm more curious from an artistic perspective and from a cultural perspective. So my first question that come in my mind is this interest that pop more, up, let's say, on the surface, due to that declassification that was done a few months ago, I believe, from the U.S. government about all the UFO images and reports that they were having. I'm not an expert in that, but I remember something happening there.
Yeah, and I wouldn't call myself an expert either, but that's part of it. It's becoming more and more plausible that it's something, and that's interesting. That's what's interesting to me. It's no longer Farmer Joe from Kansas spotting bright lights. I mean, there's classified, confirmed military footage. We have naval pilots, reputable naval pilots, a lot of military guys coming out. There's a lot of reputable sources. And if you start spider webbing and connecting all these dots, and there's a ton of documentaries now on this, there's a lot of, there's a common theme with what's being found or seen. And so that is very interesting. And you could really start tying this stuff to go, you could go down the rabbit hole of like tying it to the pyramids and going way back and all that. But it makes you, it's becoming more and more real. Now, whether it's local, Black Op project stuff, or is it someone visiting from another planet? I mean, that's up for debate, but it's based on my research, I'm starting to form a position, though I did just watch another documentary by this guy. I think it's James Fox, about an alien sighting in Brazil, Varginha, Brazil. And that, like, you almost have to, you can't make it up. Like, clearly something was seen. Like, this is an alien encounter by like a whole town, hardcore covered up. Like, there's too many people, eyewitnesses and people that are part of this. So that threw a fork in my position, because after doing these YouTube videos, my position actually shifted more towards, I think most of these are Black Op projects. But then you have, documentaries like James Fox put out, I believe that's his name. And it throws a wrench in it, because that is very believable. And I'm not trying to believe it. When I do these videos, I try to stay factually based. You can only go by the information and try to stay unbiased. But some of it really, the 1% of it or 0.5% of it really makes your head scratch your head. The aerial school that I did a video on in Africa, Zimbabwe, Africa, usually over 60 kids are saying this all the same thing at a young age. They all drew the same thing. They're analyzed by psychiatrists. What is that? I mean, is that just collective lying? I don't know, but oh, go ahead.
No. I'm wondering the same thing. But what I'm also understanding is that apart from what you believe in terms of alien search in space, and are they visiting us? I mean, we have a show called Stories from Space on ITSP magazine, and Matt Williams is a journalist, an astronomer journalist, and he actually went all over the different hypotheses, from Fermi to are we alone in the universe to the zoo hypothesis, where there are people there, but they're actually looking at us. It's not us looking at them. So really interesting. But what I'm actually understanding is that your interest it's in saying, okay, this images is real. Now, is that a UFO or it is some kind of advanced technology used here? That's a different story. You're more into studying the image itself.
So so here's my approach. We'll narrow down. I have a small team that I work with that I put together doing these videos, and so we'll narrow it down to the most plausible video and imagery. So I'm not just taking any random. We'll try to get the ones that are more plausible, and then from there, I'll see what unique perspective I can offer as a photographer, opposed to me just talking about UFO photos. So I'm cherry picking the videos or the images based on what I think I can offer as a unique perspective to the image. And of course, once you put it out there, you're challenged and called an idiot by the whole UFO community. And, you get half of them, and then the other half are insulting what you're wearing in your video. And, they give you all the side comments. But so that's my approach. Like I don't want to I'm trying to pick topics and images that I feel like I can offer a unique perspective on. So we'll review the images and see if what I can detect about these that may not have been mentioned before.
Is there some particular one that's really stuck more in your head, or I don't know, you had better feedback? And now with you, I mean, when you put yourself out there on social media, get ready for everything, the good and the bad. But for you personally, something that you're like, I really got something important here. That this is a turning point in the way that I'm actually going to look at the next image, the next video, the next footage. So, kind of like an eureka moment or something that you want to share with us.
That's a good question, because the ones that are jumping out to me most, there's no images associated with, which, makes you question your own judgment. But the aerial school and this last documentary I watched, there are no released images, but the story is overwhelmingly believable based on the amount of people involved seeing the same thing, like corroborating the same story. But all these, and I don't know if it's ironic that these images have been pulled, it's like, are there higher ups that are pulling all the images and sweeping all the data on these? I don't know. There's one video I did, or 2 videos back, and I forget which one. It was in Costa Rica, and it's I would say very questionable in terms of it being real. Like, it's definitely something, an artifact in the image. And there's been scientific studies, and you've had people doing the calculations on the speed and the direction, and it's a very believable image. But I would say the most believable topics that I've come across in the UFO or the UAP realm so far, there's no tangible evidence behind it other than the eyewitnesses and the from across the board, from civilians to military.
Well, from a technical, let's talk about the medium, right? I mean, photography, videos, which is just a lot of photography together, if you want to simplify that.
Yep.
But nowadays, and I go back into kind of like technology and society, we're all walking around with very powerful camera. I mean, I have friends, photographer, that said to me, our iPhone 14, I call it a camera with a phone. It's not really a phone anymore. And it's also, it's a dictionary, a search engine, and everything possible app you have on there. But the fact that we all have this, it helps to uncover a lot of things in society. I mean, without going political, things that maybe have always happened, but now we actually see them. But then there's people that are using now artificial intelligence to even deny the fact that they did say something. Like, no, that's fake. It's kind of like it become a coverage. So I would love your perspective on this. Is, first of all, the technology part. Is it easier to fake a video or easier to fake an image, a static image? I think I know the answer, but I would love your opinion and why. And also, why don't we even have even more reports now? And it's curious, I'm asking you this because you said the one that you think are more believable are the one without the footage, which kind of make me think.
Right. Yeah.
So I know it's a lot together, but let's just chat about it.
I would say, well, video is always more complex because there's just more components involved in video. So I would say video would be harder to fake because you're essentially grabbing a still. Let's say if we're doing a photo, it's a bit easier to fake that because you're working with a frozen moment in time. Once you get into video, you've got camera movement, lighting direction can change. Then you could have, like, wind direction could change, lighting, all these other elements need to be accounted for when you're faking something, and you have to get it all just right. And many times, if you don't get it just right, your eye will detect it. You may not be able to put your finger on it, but you can see that something is a little off. So I would say video is definitely harder to fake. AI, like, it's going to be indistinguishable if it's not already. I just used a site just playing around to recreate my voice for free.
Yep.
You do 5-minute sample and my voice is done. I can have it give me a voicemail. I could use it however I want. Then there's sites now with AI and your avatar. So you pair that, your AI voice, your AI avatar. I mean, this is so new, but it's already it's already in the works. And then you have the deep fake videos, which, those are more high-end professionals creating these, but those are getting pretty darn good, like really good. And once that's consumer level, soon enough, that'll just be an app if it's allowed. And then can we distinguish that, a spot of fake or a real? No way. It'll be too good. And it's just about there already. But once we can actually start going and creating ourselves or other people, and it'll be indistinguishable, unless you have the original file, with probably like the metadata baked into it. All you need to do is like pull it, download it, re-export it, and it loses all the information. And then how do you distinguish what's real or what's not real? I mean, that's going to happen really, really fast. I mean, in the next 5 years, there'll be a very, very different climate that we work in and how we interact, how we look up data. It'll change everything. How we approach our jobs, how we do our jobs. That is a very, I would say, exciting curve that we're about to step into. I mean, it's already happening we all know ChatGPT, but like, just wait to the applications. And then there's quantum computers, which is going to be like another evolution of computers, where we can start answering like really big questions and doing scientific data research without doing lab experiments. And this is going to happen. Everyone's racing towards this. I mean, it's very clear now that AI can be monetized and that people are interested in it. So now we have all the big players racing towards this. So with image faking, it'll be indistinguishable. No matter how good I am, because the AI is going to be able to take all of these factors, the lighting, the time of day, elevation, all these things that we have to think about critically. It'll just be in one calculation output, and it'll be all accounted for. And like, you could have me or another person be very, very difficult or impossible to detect what's real and what's fake.
Well, I haven't personally played much with the voice, although it's on my list of things to do. The avatar, I played a lot with ChatGPT, and I
use these tools all the time now. I use them all the time, every day.
Yeah. So, and I love it. I'm with you. I mean, I like it. I think right now, even if you use the the 4 version. It's still a mediocre writer, in my opinion. It's great to play with it. It gives you some inputs if you're writing creatively. I think if you're doing a report, it's a different story. But what you told me, it kind of make me really process something I didn't think about. Because when they're saying all the variables that you were talking about, and I play with DALL-E, for example, giving an input and you come out with an image. But this video, the fact that you could go there and say, give me a video filmed at 6:30 in the morning in Anchorage, Alaska on this day. And it can actually go and really literally see what the weather was, what the lighting was, and create and put a freaking, saucer in the sky or whatever, or a person in the street or a political person having a meeting with someone else. It is mind blowing.
It's mind blowing.
Kind of scary.
And so how I've been looking at it is, and if you combine that, like we do it with the YouTube thumbnails, you combine AI art with good Photoshop skills, like what you can create in what small amount of time is like whatever the only limitation are your own thoughts, and you can do it quickly. The only limitation, what it can't do great yet, and I'm testing the boundaries with this, are realistic, like photorealistic humans. Because I think for me, the next evolution will be not come to my studio. And I saw one company in India is doing this, but it's pretty hacky right now. The next evolution from what I do will be, hey, send me 10 photos, different angles of your face. I put it into the AI and I can recreate you in any wardrobe, expression, and lighting and background, of course. And so there's no reason for you to come to the studio. And the next evolution will be like, well, give me your product. We just need cell phone shots. And then we can recreate it in any setting. It's all AI. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think a lot of photographers would challenge me on my position with this. But so I'm chomping at the bit to see when that's going to happen, because I'll be all over that. Because for me, how I view it, it's all about the end result. So how we get there, I don't have an ego or an emotional attachment to how we get to the end result.
Well, you're going to come back, even if we're not done yet, but I'm taking notes. We're touching a lot of things that I want to go deeper into. Right now, I want to actually stick on that, because you are a photographer. You've been actually in the fashion industry, if I understand, for a while before doing that. So you know the creative world. Now, we both know that a lot of issue with generative artificial intelligence is the copywriting. So, you just sweep around, champions of music, images from, a Picasso to a Da Vinci to one of your picture, for example. So who owns what? I mean, writers are on strike right now because if it's started by AI, then I come in and I make it better. Who owns the concept, the idea? I mean, I understand all of that. But you are actually excited talking about this. You're telling me somebody can send you the 10 photo shot and not Photoshop, photos. And then you're going to make the amazing creative fashion shot. Imagine. Right. So help me to understand why you think that way and why a lot of other photographers are freaking out about that. Is it like a different view on what it means to create, what it means to take a photo? Do you need to be there and shot it in the street? You're telling me no. If you're like a digital creator, literally digitally creating an image, literally many that do video games and all that kind of stuff. For me, they're still artists, so I'm with you, but it's a different angle. So
for sure,
can you
I think I would be challenged.
Yeah,
I think I would be challenged by a lot of artists with my position with that, but I never. That's going to happen. It's like going from film to digital photography. It's happening, baby. So either you're going to get on board or the train keeps moving. Okay. So that's just reality check. Okay.
Mhm.
But for me personally, I love I love technology. I love all the new gear that comes out. How can we utilize it? I don't see those as roadblocks personally. If I Okay, so you could flip me and say, well, hey Sean, what if someone is saying making money off of images that look like Sean Turi photography, right? Like portraits in the style of Sean, and they're making money off my images. What's my position? My position is free marketing. That'll give my style to more people. I'll go out and create something even cooler and more unique, brand that, and I'll be on the tip of the spear while I get all this marketing around me with people using my style. That's my position. Like
Mm.
the rest of it's, in my opinion, if you want me to be like brutally honest, it's all excuses. You are making excuses why you can't continue to succeed at what you're doing. So you can sit there and complain about these things, or you can become creative and utilize it as a tool to move forward. So that's my position with it. And, coupled with, I'm deeply fascinated by all of this. And I'm very excited about like when the AI can get there, like I use Midjourney.
Mhm.
And I've already seen the difference in the last, 4 or 5 months. When it gets there, I'll be the first in line to start testing these concepts out. Right now, we can use it for mood board shots, but it still looks like a CGI human. But I think there's incredible potential with that. And for the consumer, it's going to drive the cost down. You don't need to spend $800, $1,500 on a photo shoot. You can, send your snapshots over and we can create something for a fraction of the price, faster turnaround, more customizable. Like there's so
For
much
our
opportunity
audience,
and benefit to it.
can you explain in short what an app like Midjourney does? So you
Yes.
mentioned you can do like some storyboards, some sketching, but how do you use it, and what is the potential that you're talking about? Like, where do you see it going? So that people can understand and maybe get fascinated by it and go and try it, because a lot of people are criticizing this without even
Oh,
trying it, and
you
that
have.
pissed me off.
Oh man, everyone. It's free. It's free to try. Midjourney or Dolly. Dolly's a little bit easier to use.
Yeah,
Definitely
Chat
easier to use.
GPT, yeah.
ChatGPT. You have to try these tools so you can. It's like putting on a virtual reality headset, which is another thing I use
Mm.
in my workflow. It's like putting on a virtual reality head for the first time. It kind of blows your mind on, like, you go, wow, you get a glimpse of the future. And so Midjourney or these AI art programs, essentially you're creating images with text. And right now, and you can create anything under the sun. You could say Santa Claus wearing a bikini on South Beach, and it'll create that. So how I'm using it right now is creating mood boards for clients. So what I'll do is I'll get an image of my client. I'll describe the client. So I have so the AI creates an image roughly of the look of the client. And then from there, I'll create the lighting, I'll set the mood with the text and how I want the image to look. And let's say I'll create 4 different samples. If there's a blonde-haired, blue-eyed client I have, I'll put in the description, green background, one with a light blue background, one with 3/4 lighting. And we'll create these options so the client can see them, like loosely see how this lighting would look on them. So that's how I'm using it right now. But it'll get better to where it just looks like the client. I've played around with it and with my own images, and it's not. I couldn't charge anyone for the output just yet.
So I started as a copywriter when I was still studying in an ad agency, and this was a long time ago. I mean, we were still doing storyboard. When I started my first advertising agency in Italy, a boutique one, I spent night in the printing press to do brochure, and the internet was cool, but I mean, I'm talking about I finished my college was 96, so I date myself, but that's where I am. So I have this experience with the analog and and the digital. And I love it. I mean, if you look behind me, you can see a record, vinyl. I love that, but I listen most of my music digital, with the surrounding stuff. So my point is, I don't think there is anything bad or better than the other. I think it's both art. And if your art is to go back to photography, a camera that is an old school L-shaped Leica with a mirror, and you want to take all the shots like that on film, which is what a lot of people are doing nowadays, that's cool. But I think that what you're describing, for me, it's as art as the other one, right? It's like, what do you play, a synthesizer or a violin? Well, I think you're both an artist, just different. So,
well, and I guess that's a good question to start with, is what's the definition of art? Because, it's not one for, I think there's a lot of feelings and ego involved when one finds their art and the style or approach to it begins to change. Because if you do art correctly, there's a huge emotional and personal investment in it. Your art is you. You are one with that. So when that changes, that's a big personal hit. And many times, a lot of people react differently to change, and many times it's resisted. But if you learn to adapt, there's a great book on this too, like Rick Rubin, who's the producer? Rick Rubin. If you learn to adapt with it, it's a tool. It's all art. It's all creativity. It comes in all different facets, and you can merge them too. It doesn't have to be one replaces the other. It's, life is not in the black and white. So you can use these things as tools, see it as options, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So whether you choose to resist it or not is another thing. I'd be so curious. It would be a separate conversation, but your trade as a copywriter, I mean, you are a prime candidate to be hating ChatGPT, Jasper, all these AI writing tools. I'd be so curious to know what your opinion is with all of this, especially with the union right now on strike, right?
Yeah, that's why I mentioned that. I mean, I understand the copyright issue, and I love how you're hosting and I'm the guest. So the answer for me, it's no. I love that. The answer for me is the same that you gave, meaning it's a challenge, and you can use it as a tool, and not to see it as it's going to take my job. Not that my job now it's writing copywriting anymore, but I'm still writing. But I'm very happy to have Chat GPT write the summary for this episode, give me a cool title, but I ask for 5. Maybe I merge them together, right? Maybe I word it in a way that it's going to actually give me a good result. I'm not just going to say, listen to this and give me a summary. I'm going to say, highlight this, invite the listener to think about this. So when I get it, it's almost like, I have my input in it, which is what you described about the Midjourney. Like, you're not just saying, hey, give me something cool. Well, that's cheating, right? But being an art director and say, look, this is my vision. You can tell this to a photographer or a videographer or an actor, or you can tell it to an artificial intelligence for what I'm concerned. But the result does come from your creative input, because that's one thing that, at least now, generative AI cannot give you, is that emotional creativity that you need to bring into the tool. So I that's think my answer.
At least, you're one of the few that I've heard, maybe the only one that I've heard is open-minded to it from the writer's circle, which is really cool to hear. And I think you hit the nail on the head with it. It's, at least right now, it's not, it won't do everything for you. It's still, if you read the copy and the content that comes from it, it's quite flat. I don't know if that's because they monitor and put a lot of regulations behind it, but the content's flat. There's no life behind a lot of what it uploads. Yeah. There's no emotions. So that has to come from the human right now, at least. But I think humans will always have their special place.
I think so.
And we, there's something that, that is unique that all of us have to offer, which is also why I think we all are artists in some sense, even though some may not consider themselves an artist. We all have something unique and special that we can offer the world from our own unique perspective. And what channel you put that down is different for everyone.
I kind of want to finish with this. I thought it was very inspiring what you said. I love it. And honestly, I think we went into a lot of different places with this conversation, but I'm not kidding. I mean, I would love to go deeper in some of the things that you do and even look at some of other perspective in terms of, copyright. Because another thing that, it's beautiful from a writer perspective, from an artist perspective, but when you don't get paid for what you do, then I can see what, the reason why the writers are striking now, or why a lot of the creative community is worried about this.
Yep. Yeah. It's an understandable concern when it's your income. That's a whole, I guess, a separate conversation. I've had that.
We
conversation
should have it
with some
though.
of my friends in LA. Yeah. I'd be, do you want me to have it now or later?
No, I think now we close it. We're at 35 minutes, but I think we leave our audience with a follow-up that will come, and we'll talk more about this, maybe making money with your art. That may be the title of the episode, right?
And that's a whole other thing to talk about. And hopefully Apple drops their VR headset by the time we speak, and I can talk about, that's a whole lot. The VR stuff is a whole other tech spectrum I could get into, but yeah,
I'm happy to talk about that too. Cool. Sean, thank you so much for your time. A lot to think about, and I'm going to finish and close the episode with what I always say. So if the audience is leaving this conversation with a lot more questions than when it started, we did a good job. I don't try to give answers, but if I make people think, and you definitely help me with that, I think we had a good conversation and a good episode. Please share with us any resources that you want to point out. I'll put it in the notes for the episode. And of course, for everybody listening, there will be links to Sean's website and to Sean's social media, and to get in touch with him. And follow us. Share it if you enjoyed it. Sean, thank you very much.
Thanks again, Marco.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Audio Signals. If you learned something new and this podcast made you think, then share itspmagazine.com with your friends, family, and colleagues. If you represent a company and wish to associate your brand with our conversations, sponsor one or more of our podcast channels. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey. You can always find us at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society, and some even beyond that.